Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Friday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. The Summer Lakers win back-to-back games and a scouting report on new coach Lindsey Harding. That's all coming up next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts. This one's always free, never behind a paywall. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go hang out with over 24,000 subscribers, all of whom are celebrating consecutive wins for the Summer Lakers. We were saying, like, you know what, Andy, let's not talk about the big Summer League win on Wednesday. Let's not talk about it for Thursday's show because they're going to come right back and they're going to win again. That's the kind of confidence that we had in the Summer Lakers. We also ran out of time to do it, but that's secondary to our confidence in the Summer Lakers. Andy, we've mentioned as well that you, with over 200 shows on the network, people can use them for scouting reports to learn about other teams, to get insight into different players, personnel, all that kind of stuff. We are going to have Matt George, host of Locked On Kings, on the show. He is very familiar with Lindsey Harding, who was hired this week as the first, like, what would you call her, like on the bench female assistant for the Lakers. I think they've had somebody on staff, but more like in the.
She is the first. Lindsey Harding is the first official coach, like where that is her definitive like role.
Coach, yeah.
Right, on the staff. One of the things we'll talk about with Matt George is it has not been, I think, definitively spelled out what her role is going to be on the staff, but what he suspects she will be doing. I imagine it will involve player development, but again, we'll talk with Matt George about that.
So that is coming up. That'll be our third segment. Do want to let everyone know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as the playoffs wind down, or really, let's be honest, they're over. The sports stop sporting like we want them to, but this summer FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So, we joke, but the Summer Lakers for the first 5 games that they played were a tough watch. They were pretty brutal. But the last 2 have actually been kind of entertaining.
Yeah, the Summer Lakers are now on back-to-back wins, and more importantly than that, we've been seeing consecutively good performances from Bronny James. This win tonight, 93-89 over the Cavaliers. Dalton Knecht was very good. It's also another good game from Colin Castleton, who I think we've talked about before. He's an interesting case moving forward. He played some games on a 2-way contract last year with the Lakers. The Lakers, JJ Redick recently talked about looking for a bruising big to add to the roster. That would not be Colin Castleton, but frankly, the Lakers need a backup big behind Anthony Davis of any description. Like, the main description needs to be guy you can put on the court and feel semi-confident about. And, Colin Castleton has not reached that level definitively, but he has shown enough during the Summer League and last year where you would at least be Castleton curious.
And I think I was really disappointed in him. And we'll get to Castleton, I think, in a little more depth here in a second. But I wasn't thrilled with how he began his Summer League, but things are coming on strong, and it creates an interesting dynamic with the Lakers backup center. So we'll talk about it in a sec. Let's start with Knecht, because as much as Bronny James is kind of the headliner, and he's the one the TV broadcasts focus on, and you hear the "We want Bronny" chants from the fans in Vegas. There are no "We want Dalton" chants as far as I can hear. But with that in mind, Dalton Knecht is the only player on this Summer League roster who is going to play minutes for this team. And if things go as I think the Lakers hope they will, I think he could play the minutes that Taurean Prince is leaving behind. Like, it could be that large a role. And so, I'll be honest with you, I don't even, if he could hold up defensively, there might even be, I'm not saying right away, but it wouldn't even shock me if he, in smaller lineups, if they started him at some point during the season, just because of the skill set. But I think the biggest thing, and we've talked about this a lot, Andy, playing well in the summer league doesn't automatically mean you're going to be great, but playing poorly can be a red flag, especially if you're an older player like Knecht is. And I think he has certainly cleared the bar of looking like one of the better players out on the floor.
He looks like an NBA player right now. He does not look like an NBA player that is going to dominate as a rookie. And I think the defensive issues that we heard about, whether in scouting reports or guests that we had on, the concerns about him defending at the NBA level, you see that just in the summer league. And when he's out there playing NBA games, there is no question that they're going to have to find ways to either cover for him or compensate for it, whatever. But like that is likely.
And he's going to have to just get better too. He's going to learn and get better.
Sure.
Quickly.
Oh, absolutely. There's an onus on him to improve, but the likelihood of him being able to improve, if nothing else, by the beginning of the season is low. So there's going to be compensations made, but you look at him offensively and he shows signs of being a 3-level scorer in ways that can translate at the NBA level. His shot looks beautiful. He moves really well off ball. He has a good sense of what's happening around him, whether he has the ball or whether he is moving off ball. Like, I think he has just a very good idea of spatial awareness in general. And he's shown playmaking ability. Like he's shown the ability to find guys on the move or, spotting up. His offensive game, he's been active on the boards. His offensive game has been, I think, pretty impressive. And again, it looks like something that will translate at the NBA level.
I think what's interesting a lot of times with first round picks, especially when you look at a guy that, generally speaking, was a top 12. I mean, I would say most mock drafts, sometimes these things are impacted by who's drafting where, and, this team needs a player like Knecht or whatever. So, he's in 9 a lot of drafts because they think he's a good match with that team, or 9, 10, 8, whatever. But I mean, consensus, you're talking about a top 10 player. And with that guy, you always look at, a lot of times you look at it and say, like, can this guy be a star? Is he an all-star in the making? But like, that's not how, at least I'm watching him play. I'm looking at this guy as a hopefully high-end role player in the NBA. Somebody kind of like JJ Redick, to be perfectly honest. And
Redick sees a lot of himself in Knecht.
Zero question of that. Absolutely. Can you imagine what it would look like, the things that he's doing, what that would look like in the context of what it's going to look like when he plays with the Lakers, like the real Lakers? And I think his weakest moments so far in Summer League have been those where the Lakers offense gets bogged down in the half court and you end up with Knecht trying to create off the dribble in isolation. That's not his strength. Even G League defenders, the athleticism of those guys makes that sort of thing difficult for Knecht. He is not going to do that in JJ Redick's offense ever. I mean, not on purpose. What he is going to do, like you mentioned, come off screens, run and move a lot, be one of these motion guys, and he's going to have to catch and shoot. He's going to have to catch and put the ball on the floor, or he's going to catch and make the pass. And I think I agree with you 100%. He's shown the ability to do all of those things. And so when you surround him with better talent, and I do think it will help him defensively to be playing with better players who know what they're doing.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying he's going to be great. I'm just saying it'll help him. Once those things happen, when you put him in the context of what it's going to look like for him in NBA games, as opposed to a first pick, second pick, third pick, where you're looking for star potential, I actually think it's even more encouraging what we've seen over the summer.
Look, I'll put it this way: during the 2004 Lakers run to the finals, the Kobe, Shaq, Malone, Peyton group, in the finals, Phil Jackson found ways to play Luke Walton as a rookie during high leverage moments. And To put it generously, Luke was never a defender, but they managed to make it work because, like you said, there were other good players around him who could cover some of that stuff. Luke, like I think they are hoping Dalton Knecht will be, is a smart player. But in the meantime, you find ways to accentuate what the rookie does well. What is further along in the development as opposed to just the weaknesses. But if Luke Walton as a rookie could play high leverage minutes in the finals, I'm pretty confident Dalton Knecht can just play 15 minutes a night of regular NBA basketball
in February. Put that on a t-shirt. All right, we'll talk a little Bronny. We'll talk
not to make the white to white comparison, but it just
right.
Luke was that rookie.
Slow.
Ryan Cook didn't play enough. What do you want me to
do? A guy who understood team defensive concepts, but was often just not quite athletic enough for that to matter. Let's talk Colin Castleton. Let's talk Bronny James, and remember Matt George coming up in segment 3.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel. We all love sports. We love them so much, we never want them to stop. But as the playoffs in different leagues are finished, some are on hiatus, you get fewer games right now, and the sports don't sport the way you want them to. But FanDuel lets me, let everyone keep the sports going whenever we want. All you got to do is just open up the app, dream up bets anytime you're in the mood, and there are options. You got baseball, you got WNBA. There are some WNBA pundits who feel like Caitlin Clark has overtaken Angel Reese. She had been on a bit of a surge for WNBA Rookie of the Year. The back and forth between them has been fun. Do you think Clark is now in pole position? Agree, disagree? Maybe you want to get ahead of that action. Either way, this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's always something for everyone, every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon. Start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball.
Okay, so Castleton is interesting to me, Andy, and we'll get to Bronny. But Castleton, we're doing this in order of likely impact on the big club this year, and so Castleton would be next in that draft. I don't think he had a good start to the summer. It exposed a lot of his weaknesses, particularly physically, but the last couple games have really shown his strengths, particularly, as a facilitating center. And I think the dilemma the Lakers have is that none of their backup centers are kind of like somebody you can plug into most situations, whether they play well. Like, I think Christian Wood is the closest thing to a sort of guy who can play, but was too banged up last year to really show. We don't really know what the fit looks like and all that other stuff. I am optimistic that as much as these second year options haven't really worked for the Lakers, a second year of Christian Wood could actually be something that helps the Lakers. I think he could still be a very viable backup center. But when you look at the three collectively, like Jackson Hayes has his strengths that he's good at, but a lot of obvious weaknesses. Same with Wood, same with Castleton. They don't have one guy that can sort of just be a reliable backup that's predictable and somewhat matchup proof night after night.
Yeah, and this is something also that JJ Redick recently talked about. He was doing, I believe it was a Sirius XM interview. He said, quote, "You certainly have to look at what I think is a very good roster, a very balanced roster," talking about the Lakers roster. "We try, but we'd love to at some point get another 5-man, a bruising 5-man. You look at the Western Conference right now, whether it's Denver, Minnesota, OKC with what they added, certainly Memphis, they're going to be back in the hunt. They added Zach Edey. Certainly matchups in the playoffs, you're going to need a lot of size. And whether you're talking about Wood, Hayes, or Castleton, none of those three fill that particular bill. But again, when you just start thinking about the idea of a capable backup big, period, regardless of the description, just somebody who can play a role well, even if it's not the most ideal role, and you figure out the rest as you go along, it's going to be tough because the Lakers are, first of all, the Lakers are a team that with Anthony Davis at the 5, where he's going to be the majority of games, and LeBron not really a viable option for big minutes at the 3 defensively, unless you can continually find ways to give him some of the easier defensive assignments, just pacing him for a year. You
have him guard people who play small forward for the Lakers.
It just starts becoming difficult. Like, part of the reason I know a lot of fans were hopeful for Andre Drummond, who ultimately ended up going to Philadelphia, is he's like the perfect prototype. He fits the gig from a physicality standpoint, and he is still playable. He still has his strengths, but he would not expect more than a relatively limited role at this stage of his career. It's a very specific and can be an important role.
And he could start for you if you needed a 12-game stretch where Andre Drummond was your starter. You can work through that. Whereas while Christian Wood has certainly a pretty wide variety in his skill set, there's a reason he's bounced around as much as he has. Jackson Hayes is limited, and Castleton is somebody who over time, I feel like if you plugged in Castleton, you could play him for 7 or 8 games. Like, what you're going to get. He's going to make, if you need somebody like in your choices, okay, we've got shortcomings somewhere. We need somebody who's going to go in and play the offense and make the right pass and whatever. And we'll just understand that he's going to get shoved around under the rim. Like, he's going to get physically, taken advantage of in different spots. And I actually think against NBA centers could struggle to rebound. So, that's the problem that they have. It's not that all 3 of their players are terrible, but there isn't a lot of bulk there. And we'll see. And, finding that guy, it's going to be really hard.
That's what I was about to get at next. Like, I took a look at Real GM, their list of best free agents left for center or even undersized center. Like, it is some slim pickings out there, dude. Like, Precious Achiuwa is undersized, but he's pretty defensively active. But the Knicks have his bird rights. They lost Isaiah Hartenstein. I'm guessing they want to keep him, and in the end will. And then you start looking at some of the true centers out there, man. It's like JaVale McGee, Robin Lopez, Tristan Thompson, Bismack Biyombo, Boban, Yurtseven. Like, these are not guys you would feel confident about putting on the floor, and you're absolutely
Omer Yurtseven. None of these people are better than anybody the Lakers have.
Right. None of them are worth surrendering a 2nd-round pick in a salary dump or doing a stretch and wave to create a roster spot for. Like, that would be stupid. And then, like, a trade, the Lakers have been linked to Wendell Carter Jr., who's not a bruiser, but at least he's a very good player. Center. Like, and he and AD could play together, but like, there's a cap again on how many minutes he'd play, certain limitations. He's not likely going to close often, if ever. And then you start thinking about asset usage. Like, I would give up a first for Carter because I think a backup center is, high quality one is worth that. But you start getting like 2 firsts for Wendell Carter Jr. Like, that's not good asset allocation. Like, the Lakers are not one Wendell Carter Jr. away from winning a championship.
Right. I mean, it depends if you can make a trade that's sort of makes sense. And can't give up the farm. It's just, this is the problem that they really
it's a tough thing to find, especially on a team with AD who's going to get a lot of those minutes anyway.
Right. And look, if a guy comes over in a trade and it's the right trade and the right, and if he's not totally thrilled with his role, I mean, okay, suck it up, man. You're getting paid. But it gets back to like, how do the Lakers have one swing, one really consequential swing? Especially if you want them to hit a double, a triple, try to hit a home run, to mix our sports metaphors here, they get one shot at that. If you take a couple singles, all you have left are singles. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with singles, but I'm not sure the Lakers are 2 singles away from contention. They probably need something more impactful than that to do it. But we'll see. What we will also see, Andy, is a 3rd segment with Matt George, who's going to tell us all about new Lakers coach Lindsey Harding, former last year, I should say, G League Coach of the Year. So she comes with some really nice credentials. Matt George next. As promised, Matt George from Locked On Kings, ABC 10 in Sacramento as well. The Lakers with the news this week that they were bringing Lindsey Harding onto their staff, obviously an important sort of historical moment for the Lakers in terms of hiring their first full-time female assistant for the Lakers coaching staff, but also important because JJ Redick's building out his staff. And we want to know who's on it. So Lindsey Harding, she was the G League Coach of the Year last year. Matt George coming on to talk about her. Really appreciate you taking the time. Thanks.
Well, I mean, I would say I'm thrilled for Lindsey and the opportunity that she gets, but the Lakers, Lindsey, to go to the Lakers from Sacramento, well, that's a step down geographically and talent wise. But hey, I wish her the best down there with you Lakers lovers.
I mean, it's mid-July, Matt. Like, you got to pace yourself for the upcoming season.
I seem to recall one team in the playoffs last year and one team not, and I'm pretty sure Lindsey joined the team that is.
Well, to be fair, the Stockton Kings were the number 1 seed in the G League playoffs, so she was just doing just fine.
I assume Ms. Harding is interested in upward mobility.
Absolutely, 100%. No, I'm very happy for her. And look, let's just say, hopefully the Kings and Lakers get to meet in the playoffs one day, not just so we can renew the old rivalries, but because Domantas Sabonis owns Anthony Davis, and any chance I can point that out, I will happily point that out. But guys, enough.
You are really in mid-season form here, man. It's very.
I'm here to talk about Lindsey Harding. I'm here to talk about Lindsey Harding and no bad blood.
Clearly.
So it is not. It is not for nothing that you get named, the G League Coach of the Year.
Right.
What, she has a relationship going back with Redick in a couple spots and all the way back to Duke, really. But what accounted for the success first and foremost that she saw in Stockton?
Well, I think like the foundation of every time we talked to Lindsey, and more importantly, every time that we talked to the players that either played under Lindsey as their head coach in Stockton, or worked with Lindsey one-on-one when she was a development coach with the Sacramento Kings on Mike Brown's staff, it's respect, like the respect factor. And the one thing you'll hear consistently when players talk about Lindsey Harding and playing for a woman is playing for a woman is the last thing in their mind. They're playing for a coach that deserves to be there. Lindsey Harding is getting this job on JJ Redick's staff, not for the history with the Los Angeles Lakers, not to join her friend who had a connection with her at Duke. Lindsey Harding is taking this spot on the Lakers staff because she deserves the job more than probably anybody else that applied for that position or that was available for that position. I think it speaks volumes that JJ Redick, in his first venture as a head coach in arguably the like toughest and most unforgiving market with all the expectations that come with the Lakers, he's putting his trust in Lindsey Harding to kind of go along with that journey with him. So I think that speaks volumes. The respect factor around the league, when you hear people talk about Lindsey Harding and the players that play for Lindsey Harding, it's funny that the narrative of her being a female coach is going to die very, very quickly because she's just a basketball coach, and she's a damn good one at that. And that's what you're going to learn, and that's what you're going to understand. And Laker Nation, I think, is going to love to. Hopefully, you get the opportunity, whether it's on Locked On Lakers or in like a media day setting or whatever the case may be. Maybe she gets the opportunity if JJ Redick gets kicked out of a game that she could take over as at the head of the bench. Regardless, if you ever have the opportunity to listen to Lindsey talk basketball, you'll be mesmerized by how great of a leader that she is and how savvy of just a basketball mind that she is. So it's kind of a combination of all of that that's brought her to this spot.
The Lakers have talked more openly and actively than they have in a long time about developing players as a franchise goal. And Lindsey Harding has been involved with development in the Sixers. Mentioned she's been involved with it in the Kings. It hasn't been entirely determined what everybody's specific jobs along the staff would be. But with that in mind, do you picture her being involved with that or valuable along those lines? And what is it about her that you think has done so well with development specifically?
Yeah, I think I think labeling someone as a developmental coach, I think, has the connotation of kind of the back of the bench, unless you're Kenny Atkinson in the sense that like he's made a head coach career out of being known as a developmental coach. But also when you hear developmental coaches, you typically think about them working with top draft picks and young players on probably pretty inconsistent programs and inconsistent organizations. That's not what Lindsey is. Lindsey is capable of working with anybody on that Lakers roster, whether it's she's going to one-on-one work with Anthony Davis every day or one-on-one work with, who knows, Austin Reeves, whoever the case may be. Whoever works with her is going to get better because, one, she buys in completely to the leadership that of JJ Redick or her head coach. Like the Stockton Kings were playing the same brand of basketball that Mike Brown was teaching with the main roster. And when she wasn't coaching in Stockton, she was up helping with the main roster. She was on the bench during the play-in games after the G League season had ended. She was in there during summer league until the Lakers took her. So she is directly involved in everything and is a branch, and she's going to be a branch of JJ Redick. She's going to be able to work with individualized players on whatever they need to do to develop themselves, but also develop within the program. But I think there's still another layer on top of that, a layer of leadership that she got to experience with the Stockton Kings a little bit that hopefully will come out a little bit more with the Los Angeles Lakers. She's not just someone there to take a spot. I think she's going to be someone there to be, in many ways, the right or left hand or an extension of JJ Redick than the coach he wants to be.
Oh, sure. I mean, I to make it clear, I don't consider developmental as a label, any type of either box or back row designation. Like when you mentioned before, like working with Austin Reeves has been talked about as part of a young core with the Lakers. So like, even though Reeves is considered one of the core guys on this team, Brian and I recently talked about this. We consider him, we consider Rui Hachimura, Jared Vanderbilt, those as part of potential developmental players.
But like I think, but also too the point that you're making, Matt, about like player development runs through the roster. I mean, every player on an NBA roster, some do it differently than others. I mean, LeBron is probably fairly developed at this point, but like, you know,
I'm sure he's worked with Phil Handy on something.
He's got stuff that he does, and Anthony Davis goes through some. These guys are always learning. And you know, Kobe went to go find Hakeem Olajuwon. He was a pretty good player at that point in his career. So you know, I think it is an important thing for fans to understand that being part of the development section, like where that might be your primary job. And I think the Lakers are pretty close to hiring Bob Byer from, who worked with JJ Redick in Orlando and has been around for, a long time. Like same kind of thing, like players, there are coaches who make a living out of this. My last question is like, when you think about the career path, Becky Hammon was, I think, seen as like, okay, she's going to be the one who breaks through and becomes the first female head coach in the NBA. She has obviously found a pretty good gig in Las Vegas with the Aces. Do you see that kind of potential in Lindsey Harding at some point?
I would hope so. I mean, considering she got the opportunity in the G League and was right away successful. Now, she inherited a program in the Stockton Kings that the year before under Bobby Jackson, who's now a top assistant with Nick Nurse in Philadelphia. That team also was a first seed in the Western Conference of the G League, ended up losing in the first round. So she inherited a good team at that time, but a lot of the players that were the staples of that team were no longer around, like Neemias Queta, and Keon Ellis was technically a two-way player, but played so much with the main roster, she never saw him. So she changed again. She kept the way that they tried to play, plugged in new players, and had the same level of success. To me, that is a representation of she's adaptable and understands what it takes to win no matter what level that she's at. So Brian, to answer your question, I mean, if you were to ask her about making history and stuff like that, that doesn't matter to her. She wants to be a head coach in the NBA because she wants to win in the NBA. So I guess that's kind of the best way to answer that question is she is going to get that opportunity if it happens because she deserves it and she's better than every other candidate or most of the candidates in that position. It's not going to be.
The biggest reason. I don't mean to cut you off. Just saying the biggest reason I asked the question is just because, the Lakers need every little advantage they can get, and coaching talent, that, untapped or semi-tapped, or, the high-end assistant who becomes an asset to the point that they become the next, Micah Nori or David Adelman, where you're just on that track to be hired by someone. That's a bonus that you may,
especially
you
because, like, while we both think Nate McMillan and Scott Brooks were good additions to this staff, those are not the guys that we're talking about the way Brian's describing it. Like, those are very known, established commodities. Scott Brooks or Nate McMillan are not going to be on the rise, regardless of how successful JJ Redick is, as a head coach. But there can be that, residue benefit for a Lindsey Harding, especially when you take into account, Matt, all the other success that she's had.
100%. Now, I don't want to speak for Lindsey, but I also think there's an element of you choose this LA market that's going to have all eyes on it, not just because half the world wants to see if JJ Redick is going to work. Half the world is arguably rooting against him and Bronny at the same time, right? But you're in a polarizing market, and you're going to be a prominent figure on the bench of, like I said, the biggest organization in the NBA, the most prominent organization in the NBA. If you find success there, that's a launching pad to an opportunity, because people are going to be paying attention. If I'm Lindsey, I factor that into the decision to take this job. I have no idea if she got job offers elsewhere and turned them down or not. No clue. That's pure speculation. But what we know is the Lakers offered her a position. She took it. She has desires and goals to be a head coach at the NBA level, period. She clearly thinks this is not only the best route to advance her career, this puts her in a position to achieve that goal. So I guess the question really is, why not? Why can't she do it?
Well,
here's the opportunity for her to prove it.
If that happens, it means the Lakers probably winning. So I think everybody down here will be happy. Give us the 45-second version of excited, not excited, indifferent about the DeRozan thing.
Oh, extremely excited. You're giving me 45 seconds. That's cruel of you. I could go forever.
We didn't give you 45 seconds. David Locke gave you 45 seconds.
Curse you, David. Always. He's just mad that the Kings didn't trade the house for Lowry Markkanen. No, DeMar DeRozan's a fantastic pickup for the Sacramento Kings. I actually have a podcast coming a little bit. I talked to an assistant coach in the NBA. No, it wasn't Lindsey Harding. I talked to an assistant coach in the NBA about what DeRozan brings to Sacramento outside of the obvious, and he brings a whole new layer to what's already a terrifying and prominent offense. I think it's going to be phenomenal for the Sacramento Kings. And he's just a winner. And the Kings don't typically attract talent like that. They typically lose them to the LAs and Miamis of the world, right? So for the Kings to land, we got one. We're on the scoreboard, boys.
Well, he was unwilling to stay in play in LA for like $24 million less than he could have gotten in Sacramento. So we'll see how that goes. Matt George, he is the host, of course, of Locked On Kings. You can also find him on ABC 10, anchor and reporter up there. Does fantastic work. One of the many shows on the over 200 on the Locked On Network that you can go to learn more about things that impact the Lakers. Matt, thanks so much for taking the time. We really appreciate it.
Lakers fans, be nice to me in the comments. Save your tomatoes. I enjoy the rivalry.
It's only July. Save the vegetables until October. Locked On Lakers is on the YouTube is where you can go hang out, see the show, talk to us, talk to Matt. We will see everybody on Monday.